Hello and welcome to another episode of PC Classics. I'm your host Rubara, and today's game is Age of Empires. Age of Empires was developed by Ensemble Studios and published by Microsoft in 1997 for Windows 95 and NT. And at the time of its release, whether or not the developers intended it to be or not, reviewers described it as a combination between Warcraft 2 and Civilization. And I can definitely see what they're talking about, as the game does a good job of combining real-time strategy elements with empire building. As far as why Ensemble Studios decided to make a historical-based real-time strategy game, has more to do with their marketers thinking there was more of an audience and less competition, rather than them being truly inspired. But I suppose they did a good job, as Age of Empires is one of the reasons I became a history major. Obviously a very misguided decision. As far as story goes, well, who really cares about the story? It's a real-time strategy game. Sure as hell no, I've never cared about a story in one of those. But the game does have a nice campaign section that goes off of historical context and actually does have a good bit of history about the culturals that you're playing as. As far as graphics go, the game is very pleasing on the eyes. The audio in the game is also stunning, and that's probably why they use the same composer to this day for their most recent releases in the series. And so up until now you're probably thinking, hey, this game looks really good and a lot of fun and is very much worth going out and picking up. And you'd be right, it is a good game. But Age of Empires has one major flaw. Actually, it comes out to a whole bunch of major flaws, but they all are derived in the same area, and that is gameplay. Age of Empires is a micromanager's dream, and everybody else's nightmare. So let's talk about farming. And farming is an extremely important aspect of this game. Actually, it's an extremely important aspect of every game that's in the historical real-time strategy genre. And in Age of Empires, it's not done very intuitively. Like, each farm is only given a certain amount of food, and when it runs out, instead of the farmer replanting and, farming again, the farm just dies and you have to rebuild it. And that doesn't really seem that hard until you realize you have to run your military campaigns and your village at the same time. And running a military campaign can be a very difficult process on its own, where controlling units is very difficult. The pathfinding is terrible. And this is the only game I've ever seen that has a meter for controlling exactly how intensive you want the pathfinding to be. But unfortunately, at max, it's still terrible. The units just don't know how to get around things. And so if you want to get around a river or a wall, it'll take like 3 or 4 clicks to get around it instead of just 1. That actually brings up one of my best defensive strategies in Age of Empires, and that's just to build a wall around yourself. It'll just confuse all the computer players and they won't know how to attack you. Japan's isolationist policy doesn't work in the real world, but damn does it work in Age of Empires. Missionaries have always pissed me off in these historical real-time strategy games, but this game brings that to a whole new level, because in Age of Empires, you have to control all of their actions individually, and so if you want them to heal a unit, they won't do it on their own, or they won't convert enemy troops on their own. And it really turns them into a unit that only the AI can fully take advantage of. I guess I'm just nitpicking right now, but these points are very much worth bringing up, because fundamentally, the historical real-time strategy game is still very similar to this day, and the only thing they've really improved on is the gameplay. And games like Age of Empires 2, Empire Earth, Warrior King's Battles, they all do everything that this game does, but better. So if you can get past all the problems, you can have a lot of fun in Age of Empires. But if you're trying to rekindle a love for a game long past, just play Age of Empires 2. It's a lot more fun.